The pain that lives in silence. Before anything else, pause for a moment. Take a deep breath, because what you are about to hear is not just another message about healing. This message is about the places in your life that no one else sees. The places where the body hurts, where the mind feels tired, and where the soul quietly asks God, will things ever change? Many people around the world are walking through life carrying wounds that cannot be seen. Some are physical, some are emotional, and some are spiritual battles that words cannot fully describe. You may look strong on the outside, you may smile when others are around, but deep inside, there may be moments when you feel like something within you is broken. The truth is, human life was never meant to carry so much pain alone. That is why the message of healing through Jesus Christ has remained powerful for more than 2,000 years. Because his healing was never only about the body, it was about restoring the whole person, body, mind, soul, spirit. And throughout history, millions of people have testified that the moment they turned to him in faith, something inside them began to change. Healing was the heart of his mission. When you look closely at the life of Jesus Christ, something incredible becomes clear. A huge part of his mission on earth was healing. The Bible records that people traveled from entire regions just to see him. Some walked for days, some carried sick relatives, some arrived with broken hearts and impossible situations. And the amazing thing was this: again and again, lives were transformed. The blind began to see, the sick recovered, people who were emotionally broken found peace again. One well-known moment recorded in the Bible describes crowds bringing the sick to him in faith, and it says something powerful. Everyone who touched him was healed. Think about that. Not some, not a few, but everyone who reached out in faith. This reveals something about the heart of God that many people misunderstand. God is not distant from human pain. He sees it, he understands it, and he cares deeply about restoring what has been damaged. The 3 areas that need healing. Many people think healing only refers to physical sickness, but true healing is much deeper than that. According to the teachings surrounding Jesus Christ, human beings are made of 3 important parts: the body, the soul, and the spirit. When one of these areas is wounded, life begins to feel heavy. 1. The body. The body carries the stress of life, fatigue, pain, illness. Sometimes the body feels weak simply because the mind and heart have been carrying too much for too long. 2. The soul. The soul carries emotions, memories, disappointments, the pain of betrayal, the exhaustion of waiting for things to change. Many people look physically healthy, but inside they feel overwhelmed. That is a soul that needs healing. 3. The spirit. The spirit is the deepest part of a person. It is where faith lives, where hope lives, where connection with God begins. When the spirit feels distant from God, life can feel empty, even when everything else seems normal. This is why the message of Christ was so powerful, because his miracles didn't just repair physical problems, they restored the entire human being. The moment faith opens the door, something interesting appears in almost every healing story connected to Jesus Christ. Faith always played a role. Not perfect faith, not strong faith, just faith. Sometimes it was as simple as someone believing that if they could just reach him, something might change. Faith is powerful because it shifts the heart from fear to hope, from despair to expectation. And when the human heart begins to believe again, something remarkable can begin to happen. Doctors today even acknowledge that belief and hope can influence the body's ability to recover. The mind and spirit are deeply connected to physical health, but faith in Christ goes even further because it connects a person to divine power, a power that goes beyond human limits. The miracle many people miss here is something many people overlook. Not every miracle begins with something dramatic. Sometimes healing begins quietly, a new sense of peace, a sudden feeling of hope, a calm that replaces anxiety. These small shifts often happen before larger breakthroughs appear. And that is why many believers say healing begins inside the heart first. Because when the soul begins to heal, the rest of life slowly begins to follow. This is why the message of Jesus Christ continues to spread across the world today. From churches in small towns to large gatherings in major cities, people continue to share testimonies of lives restored, bodies strengthened, families reunited, minds set free from fear, and hearts filled with peace again. Something may already be changing right now. As you hear these words, you may be thinking about something in your own life, a struggle, a pain, a prayer that has felt unanswered. But what if the healing you have been waiting for is already beginning? What if the process started the moment you turned your heart toward God again? Because many people who experienced miracles in the Bible didn't know the miracle had started until later. Sometimes the change was already happening before they even realized it. And that same hope is still alive today, because the power that healed thousands during the time of Jesus Christ has never disappeared. Faith still opens the door, grace still moves in unexpected ways, and healing still finds people in their most difficult moments. When heaven begins to heal, the moment everything starts to change. There are moments in life when healing does not begin with a miracle that everyone can see. Sometimes it begins with a quiet shift inside the heart, a moment when hope returns, a moment when fear loses its grip, and suddenly the weight that once felt unbearable begins to feel lighter. Many people throughout history have described this exact experience when they turned toward Jesus Christ during their most difficult seasons. They didn't always see immediate physical change at first, but something inside them began to awaken, a new peace, a new strength, a sense that they were no longer facing life alone. This is often the first sign that healing has already begun, because true healing rarely starts on the outside. It begins deep within the soul. The stories that changed history. The life of Jesus Christ is filled with powerful stories of restoration, stories that have been told for generations because they reveal something profound about God's heart for people. One story describes a woman who had suffered from a serious illness for 12 long years. Doctors could not help her. Medicine failed. Hope seemed almost gone. But one day she heard that Jesus was passing through the city. Crowds surrounded him. People pressed in from every direction, and yet this woman believed one simple thing: if I can just touch him, I will be healed. She reached through the crowd and touched the edge of his garment, and at that exact moment, the pain that had controlled her life for over a decade disappeared. According to the Bible, Jesus turned and said something powerful: "Your faith has made you well." This story has inspired millions of people because it reminds us that miracles often begin with a single moment of belief, not perfect belief, just a small step of faith, healing that goes beyond medicine. Today, modern science continues to study the connection between belief, hope, and physical healing. Researchers have discovered that emotional peace and spiritual faith can influence the body in powerful ways. Studies have shown that stress weakens the immune system, while hope and positive belief can help the body recover more effectively. But what makes the healing ministry of Jesus Christ different is that his miracles often went beyond natural explanations. Blind eyes opened instantly, people who could not walk suddenly stood again, and individuals who had been isolated by illness were restored to full life. These moments were not just medical improvements, they were signs of divine compassion. They revealed that God was not distant from human suffering. He was actively stepping into it, bringing restoration where people believed nothing could change. The healing of the soul. Physical healing is powerful, but many people today carry wounds that cannot be seen by doctors. Wounds in the soul, disappointments, broken relationships, memories that still hurt even years later. The truth is that emotional pain can sometimes be heavier than physical pain. But this is exactly where the message of Jesus Christ becomes deeply personal, because his words often focused on restoring the human heart. He spoke to people who felt rejected, people who felt unworthy, people who believed their past mistakes defined their future. And again, he reminded them that God's love was greater than their failures, greater than their pain, greater than the stories they had believed about themselves. When the soul begins to accept this truth, something powerful happens. Shame begins to fade, fear loses its control, and the heart begins to feel alive again. This is a miracle that millions of people around the world have experienced. When the spirit is restored, There is another kind of healing that many people do not recognize immediately: spiritual healing. This happens when a person reconnects with God after feeling distant for a long time. Life can sometimes pull people away from faith. Pain can make people question God's presence. But throughout history, people have discovered something surprising. The moment they turn back toward God, they often discover He was never far away. The teachings of Jesus Christ repeatedly remind people that God seeks restoration, not rejection, grace instead of condemnation, mercy instead of judgment. When someone truly receives this truth, the spirit begins to feel renewed. And once the spirit is strengthened, the rest of life often begins to shift in remarkable ways. Miracles still happen today. Some people believe miracles only happened thousands of years ago, but countless testimonies today tell a different story. Across the world, people continue to share experiences of healing after moments of deep prayer and faith. Doctors sometimes describe recoveries they cannot fully explain. People struggling with anxiety suddenly find peace after years of searching. Families that seemed permanently broken discover reconciliation. These moments may not always appear dramatic on the outside, but to the person experiencing them, they feel nothing short of miraculous. Because healing is not always about instant transformation. Sometimes it is about restoration that unfolds step by step. The invitation to believe again. Right now, someone listening to this message may feel like their situation is too difficult, too complicated, too far gone. But the stories surrounding Jesus Christ repeatedly show something remarkable. The people who experienced miracles were often the ones who believed they had reached the end of hope. The blind man who could not see the road ahead. The sick person who had tried every treatment. The heart that had been disappointed too many times. And yet, those were often the very people who witnessed the greatest transformations. Because when human strength runs out, faith begins to grow. And faith opens the door for God to move in ways we never expected.